Thank you very much for joining me today for the April's edition of the D4A Pulse, which is a monthly event, a webinar, which we're holding with covering the most exciting topics in blockchain and crypto space. So I thank everybody, the audience and the speakers who joined and in the process of joining today. And today we have a very interesting topic to discuss. It's the crypto assets regulations and the rules of the game, which is still very much vague in some areas. And even people already writing that in their areas, crypto is completely banned, like in Bangladesh, or very much given to the government hands. And we have some other issues in Europe or in America. So I think today we actually have a very proficient panel, even though some of them are still joining us due to technical reasons. But I think these people can share a lot of experience in terms of regulations and favorable regimes for the crypto spaces. And it is my pleasure to ask our speakers to briefly introduce themselves. I wanted Christina to start. I'm not sure if Christina, can you speak something or not yet?
I think it's going to work now.
Yes. Oh, wow. Awesome, Christina, so please.
Figured it out in the last minute. Yes, would you like me to start with a little introduction then maybe?
Absolutely, just a few words about yourself, what you're doing.
Yeah, okay, so my background is that I'm a commercial lawyer working on international transactions from the get-go. And the last few years, I've also been working a lot with blockchain and cryptocurrency companies, handling, well, a variety of issues and company setups in different parts of the world, and ICOs and DeFi solutions and gaming solutions and, well, all sorts of things. So yeah, I think that's enough of an introduction.
Okay, thank you very much. Gordon, if I may ask you, I mean, it's not the first time you're participating in our events, so welcome back.
Well, thanks to you, Nell. I appreciate it. Yeah, sure, just real fast. I'm Gordon Einstein. I'm an attorney who focuses exclusively and solely on crypto and on blockchain. I'm licensed in California, United States, but I have an international practice, and I am currently in beautiful Dubai with a lot of other good crypto people. So it's either here or Barcelona. Maybe I'll kind of go between the two.
Amazing. Well, at least you're enjoying the very good weather there for sure.
Oh yeah, it's quite nice.
Now I would like ask Xavier, who's also based in Barcelona, like myself.
Yeah.
If you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I was a lawyer for many years ago, 27. I was devoted to public law and also private law. After 2008, I changed my career to financial swap. And then at the end of my master in finance, I discovered what is Bitcoin. After that, in 2012, and I devoted all my career to the cryptocurrency, advising changes, regulators, financial authorities, and everything. And finally, I wrote the law of the Principality of Andorra that is now in the Parliament. I work for Advante. Advante is a firm based in Barcelona and Madrid. We are a multidisciplinary firm law that we are economists, lawyers, and technicians, and we will create from the scratch the division of the blockchain practice 3 years ago.
Thank you, Xavier. And finally, Nicolas, who is also a very good friend of Democracy for All. If you can introduce briefly yourself.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for the invite. Pleasure to be here. My name is Nicolas. I'm head of business development at Amazing Blocks. I'm not a lawyer like most people here, but still I hope I can provide some insights also in terms of maybe merging legal, tech, and business, right? I joined the blockchain space in 2016, worked on a couple of projects, and was then part of the founding team at Amazing Blocks. So we're a legally compliant tokenization startup out of Liechtenstein, offering consulting and different software solutions for the life cycle, basically. That's it in a nutshell about me.
Thank you very much, Nicolas, and everyone for your presentations. So, I mean, let's get started from here. So, as all of you know, and as our listeners know, the crypto assets are getting more and more traction. Cryptocurrencies are probably the ones who are leading the race still. And how I remember it back in 2016, 2017, more or less that era, different countries and jurisdictions started to make some steps towards regulating, defining what is crypto and digital assets. And few years have passed since, I don't know, Swiss FINMA published their guidelines, Malta introduced their ICO regulations and frameworks. And at the same time, most of the countries still define it differently. So at least from what I saw, and I'm not a lawyer, not a close to lawyer, but naturally, that's why my first question would be, from your perspective, guys, where do we actually stand today in terms of defining and regulating crypto assets, digital assets in general? And is there any consensus which we can reach within different jurisdictions? So I would probably ask first Gordon and Xavier, and then Christina and Nicolas, if you can add on top of that. So Gordon, word to you.
The question is, what's the status of regulation of crypto environments, and what the hell is going on in the world?
Yeah, well, let's start with the very basic question.
It's funny, as you were asking the question, I was pondering. It is so strange right now. I mean, we're all following what happened in Turkey, of course, with the theoretical ban on crypto payments, which to me is a big fat joke. Because if you look at the Turkish economy and what's going on with the lira and their central bank and the lack of independence there, for them to start kicking Bitcoin and crypto assets, they're almost like protesting too much. We have the United States that's finally saying that they're going to move to a digital dollar. We've had a digital dollar for decades now. It doesn't actually mean anything unless you put it on a blockchain and put it on a centralized ledger. You have jurisdictions like Dubai right now who are being very forward-thinking and progressive, and they're not the only ones. It's just a crazy matrix right now. It's a rubric, and it's I don't know. I look forward to getting into a debate with my fellow panelists about where this is actually going. I don't think anyone is actually clear now. China's going to have a central bank digital currency soon. They'll have something, but it's pure government crypto. So I heard an interesting statement recently. I heard that China is not rule of law; it's ruled by law. I think that's kind of the way that their crypto is going to be put out there. So that's my sort of fast, disorganized answer, pending other panelists making comments and me jumping in.
Xavier, I think you will have a very strong opinion on that.
maybe not. This is not nightmare. Also, the regulation around the world, because it's not clear the taxonomy, because each country has made their assumptions what it is. For example, cryptocurrency, stable coins, virtual asset services providers, or crypto asset services providers. And one thing that could be clear is what it is from the perspective of Europe, is what it is a security and what is not. No? On September 24th in 2020, the European Commission published a proposal of the regulation, that is the market and crypto asset regulation, that could be applied to the other things that are not at this moment security assets. No? But is under cooking, no? Because it's not clear. No? After they have published the proposal, the European Bank make an assessment of the proposition and make some modifications of what will be started. They will come in force, I think, not at least 2024. No? After that, there is the DeFi sector, the decentralized finance, that could be a nightmare also to regulate how we be decentralized and how we be centralized for regulation purpose. No? And this is the main approach that we have assessed in the Principality of Andorra to regulate not only the configuration of the cryptocurrencies of the tokens or in general, but also how they will be transferred, how will be regulated the participants in the ecosystems, also the smart contracts, also the DeFi activities. But it's a very difficult point of view for a politician to make some rules to apply to the same types of activities and risk, and make a final assessment of what will be correct and what will disturb the technicians to evolve in the ecosystems.
Christina, do you have something to add?
Well, I mean, I have a lot to add, really, but it's a very wide question, I would say, that you ask, because it depends if you're talking about blockchains in general or if you talk about crypto per se, I would say. And to me, if I'm going to see some global trends, it seems either you're going towards more stricter regulation, where the banks and the government want to retain full control. And that's, I mean, that can also be the aim of creating your own, central bank digital currency. And you also can see some countries saying that they ban, us, the small time players, and only the ones that are, trading over 1 million or so are allowed to do it in some countries. While other countries take a totally different approach where they say, oh, we're embracing this new technology and we're going to make it easier to transact here and provide, regulatory stability and not tax the life out of the crypto holders or the companies that are creating new cryptocurrencies and things like that. So in general, I would say that there are two different trends, one towards more control and heavy taxation and limiting of, the average Joe to trade. And another one where you see it go towards more what the aim of cryptocurrencies was from the beginning, to have an unregulated, where, the central banks aren't controlling everything. And also that empowers the little guy, so to speak, where you can transact with one another without these central authorities that just collect money in the process and have an old-fashioned system. So that's what I would say.
Sort of like rent keeping or rent taking. There's whatever that expression is for someone who just sits on a resource, doesn't add value, and just extracts or farms it.
Yeah, exactly. And you could say, and the banks are starting to become a little bit, well, they are already. If you see how quickly you can send the Bitcoins throughout the world and a transaction where you send, say, from Sweden, where I live, to Africa, if you have your family there, that takes weeks, and they take like up to 25% of the money you send, for instance. And that's a very profitable business model if you can have it. But I think the crypto, are showing that there are more efficient ways to do it and a lot cheaper ways. And that is, of course, a threat to the traditional model. So the governments and the banks, I would say the central banks are in many cases against that development, because they want to, of course, retain their profitable, business model. That's what I would say in general. That's very general, but that's the two ways I see development go.
That's absolutely, yeah. I mean, and lots of people actually agreeing with you, right, already in the chat, and myself as well. It's like it definitely goes different directions. But at the same time, I mean, I will give the word now to Nicholas to say his opinion, but just building on your point, it just sometimes, yes, the governments or central banks, they may be a little bit afraid of that. They're losing the control, but at the same time, they may lose the opportunity. And that's why some of the countries trying to grab it, especially the smaller ones who usually build their financial existence, not because they have lots of resources, right? But because they're trying, like Switzerland or Liechtenstein, they're trying to build these financial systems, basically, right? Which the world will use. So yeah, sorry. And with this, I'm passing the word to Nicholas and his opinion on the general stage.
Yeah, thanks for this. And by the way, cute duck in the background. So, from my side, I fully agree with everything that has been mentioned, by the panelists. I think generally one of the biggest issues is that we do not have any standardization yet. And I see this also from our day-to-day business, right? People like, especially in Liechtenstein, for instance, you have progressive laws in place. However, still, when we're talking about, having these tokenized securities in other jurisdictions offered to retail investors, so there's a lot of hurdles you need to take. So generally, I think, it's very fragmented, and you really have to be cautious if you implement, for instance, or propose even laws that are too strict, like for instance in the recently released FATF paper, that you do not harm innovation, right? Which is, I think, going to hurt, especially larger jurisdictions a lot, where then the smaller jurisdictions may be able to take a piece of the pie. And I think another, point to mention here as well is that we need more education in terms of educating decision makers and lawmakers. Hence, it is good that we have lawyers that are dealing with this topic. So props to all of you guys. But I think we really need to pass the word even more and educate people in terms of the possibilities. And I think also, that there will be kind of two paths in the future. On the one hand, the fully regulated one, and on the other hand, basically the on-chain, decentralized global governance that will evolve. Yeah, so that's kind of my 5 cents to it.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Nicholas. And that actually brings me to the next point, which is more regarding their...
I'm sorry, but the cat behind you is super cute, and I have to point that out.
Sorry?
The cat behind you is super cute, and I have to point that out. Or dog.
Yeah, he is.
Sorry, your dog has a cat's body, so...
He has a very interesting character. He's something between the dog and the cat. He is. Anyway, so that I'm going back to our discussion, and what I wanted to ask you more about the different regulatory and compliance aspects, which are currently anyone who's doing business, like legal business in crypto space, in DeFi, doesn't matter, in tokenization, right? So, but pretty much lots of regulations are similar to them. So what people have to take into account, almost regardless the jurisdiction. So I just think that it should be something, what I mean basically something related to investor protection, or maybe anti-money laundering, or some privacy issues. So you are the lawyers, you're working with that constantly. So what is that?
You're asking what are the universal sort of worldwide concerns?
Let's say more like maybe on Europe, probably. We are mostly in Europe, but if you can use from the US example, and we can then maybe put it in.
Well, I don't know if it's answering your question directly, but the matrix I always apply is it a security?
Yeah, right now pretty much everything is considered as a security, a lot of things.
Well, the more progressive jurisdictions if you have the United States as one extreme, you kind of loosen that up. I think when you get in parts of Europe, Switzerland, especially with their sandboxes or their willingness to give an opinion about whether or not something is a security. Malta seems to have a looser jurisdiction. When you get into areas like Dubai and elsewhere, they can have even a more restricted definition. So I think that's one form of analysis. I'd say another universal concern is, like you mentioned, the money laundering aspect. You have the Financial Action Task Force 2020 recommendations and the 5th AML directive. That's always something I'm thinking about from a big worldwide regulatory perspective. And then I think you mentioned privacy. Privacy is an interesting one. We do not have a global privacy framework. We don't even have a global privacy model, unlike a lot of these other areas. You have GDPR. We have a clashing set of regulatory regimes that to some extent overlap, but maybe even are contradictory in some cases. So if you're asking for like the big themes and how to resolve them and what's going on globally, I'd say those are the big three.
Right. Christine, because you've been working with several jurisdictions, and I know you also was working with the Singapore and within Europe as well. So from your perspective, which were the main regulations which took the most?
Well, I think when you decide on where to set up shop in the world, you're obviously going to look at which countries have a favorable stance on, crypto in general. If you're going to do a large ICO, it can, in some cases, I guess, be a problem with anti-money laundering and all of that in principle. So you have to set up how you do it and all of that. And also, like you said, you don't want it to be regarded as a security with all of those things. So you want to avoid that, of course. And you also, I mean, it depends a little bit on what type of project it is. Sometimes, like I have worked on a project where we're setting up a DAO, and then as the DAO aren't regulated anywhere in the world, and since it's not, it comes with a lot of legal risks. And then you want to set up some type of legal wrapper for it to protect the people developing it, and also the potential users of the DAO or participants in it, or whatever you want to call it. And then you also look at, for instance, how can you give a legal wrapper to that setup, which is, not clear cut. I think we have a good solution for it on the project that I'm working now. But so it depends a little bit on the exact project and what you want to do. But those are for sure. I mean, you wouldn't set it up in a country that is trying its best to make it into securities, or want to tax you into nothingness for any proceeds, or those issues. So you more look at the the most suitable for the project at hand, I would say. So but of course, I mean, if I should say that GDPR and all of that, but that doesn't really come in when you set up a company like a DAO in that sense. But privacy for people in general, I think, is something that you need to think about, but not so much from a crypto perspective as I see it. I see it more for instance, like I mentioned to you about the passports for vaccination passport that on a blockchain, then maybe privacy concerns will be even more important to the person at hand. So it depends a little bit. I mean, we're speaking in general here. There are so many issues we could discuss for days, I think. But if it comes to business, then you say, the most suitable for the project that you do it anyhow.
It's interesting you mentioned DAOs. I'm curious about your solution. I'm very involved in the DevX DAO, which is the DAO that's receiving the largest grant from Casper, and it's solely for the purpose of making grants to developers. And we think the innovative solution was after a lot of work, was to wrap a Swiss nonprofit association around it.
Yeah.
But it's been I think there's more than one way to skin that cat, though. I think the constant struggle is, given the lack of legal personality with DAOs and the lack of limited liability, can you simulate that well enough with the sort of wrapper? And it's an ongoing challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like almost everyone has come up with a solution with a non-profit or a foundation of some sort so far. Is the best way to go there. And, foundations work basically the same way all over the world. So non-profits and that is like the way to go at the moment, at least, I would say.
Yeah.
I see.
So you have a for-profit DAO.
Nothing his head as well. Maybe something you want to add on that. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Nicholas. No. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, sure.
We structured the project, first of all, with the assessment of the strategy we want to devote to the project. No, that means we have to configure the nature and the functionality of what we want to tokenize and what will be used in any jurisdiction. No? After saying that, we structure the process of analyze the structure that we have created with this assessment, and then we analyze if it makes sense to issue a crypto asset in any jurisdiction and commercialize the token in another jurisdiction. That makes sense because we have several and many pieces that we have to put together in the regulatory terms. No? not only GDPR, but also money laundering, market abuse, regulations, know your clients, anti-money laundering, and everything. No? Everything has to be put in place at the same time with a multitude of players and buyers and sellers of the digital assets. No? This is many times a nightmare. No? Because if it's always true that any jurisdiction could be good for something, the configuration at this moment alone not make sense to make, for example, a means of payment or to make a cryptocurrency that could be a tokenization, for example, real estate or so on. No? This is really a nightmare to organize everything together. No? You have to be careful also with your investors, because if not, you could have problems about money laundering, and this is not a assessment that is easier to comply with.
Absolutely, and that's where you come also into whether it is a security or not, and who is the investor, right?
Yeah,
that's a very big one. So sorry, Nicholas. So the word to you.
I mean, I think also there was something, maybe to add here as well, is that especially when we're talking about tokenizing security, something that is also another obstacle or, a bottleneck, so to say, that we experience as well, is when it comes to the secondary market, which is quite strong when you're talking about cryptocurrencies in general. But when we're talking about, tokenized assets, for instance, it's not existent really. When you look at the major platforms in the US or so, the biggest coins there are tokens, so to say, have like daily trading volumes of like 10K or 15K, and that's really not much, right? And hence I think, it really also depends on how can a jurisdiction provide access to this secondary market, whether it's possible when it's seen as a security, right? This is definitely something that needs to be considered. And in terms of just, tokenizing securities, I think, really the low-hanging fruit therefore is also from a regulatory side to go into jurisdictions like Switzerland or Liechtenstein or others, that when we're looking about tokenizing SMEs and having this as the first step into this market, right? Especially for people from the traditional sector, not because I think DAOs is obviously an interesting topic, but personally, like, I don't really get the concept why you would even need any entity when we're talking about a DAO, right? I understand why a lot of people need that security, but really the vision of a DAO is to have like fully on-chain governance, right? And what do you need that entity for? I think in the future, potentially we have a case where this is not needed anymore, where we have on the one hand the legally compliant security tokens, which do need an entity, of course, but then on the other hand, these on-chain systems where it hopefully doesn't matter which jurisdiction you're in.
Right. Thank you, Nicholas. Actually, I wanted, because we said that exactly, it very much depends on the jurisdiction, but lots of crypto projects, blockchain projects, they actually immediately target global audience. And that's where it becomes a little bit difficult, right? So it depends if your customers or your investors are anywhere in Europe or in Asia or in US, and it's all mixed. And that's why the complexity comes right in this place. So, I mean, I don't want to go into this super deep because, I mean, it's impossible to cover within 1 hour, right? And you can read the lectures, you need a course on every particular jurisdiction. But in your opinion, again, if you have to give like your top 3, top 5, whatever, or top 1 maybe jurisdiction which you would advocate for, and I will start with Nicholas and why. I mean, I know that his favorite one is, but maybe he has some others.
Yeah, I mean, from my side, obviously, this may be biased, but I would say number 1 is for me Liechtenstein, just because they've been, deep diving into this topic since 2015. There were a lot of experts, that were involved in drafting this law, and it's not just adding to existing laws, it's actually an entire new law, right, for the token economy. Then I would also obviously name jurisdictions like Switzerland that are taking the right steps, that really are moving forward. And then obviously it's other jurisdictions that are opening up, like Singapore and so on, Malta, I think also Andorra and so on. But I mean, I don't want to take all the jurisdictions, so I'll pass the word on to the others.
Gordon, what is your top three and why?
I wish I could say Malta. I love Malta. And of course, I have some connections there. They got out in front with early legislation, but their execution of it institutionally hasn't been fast or efficient or put together yet. I do agree with Liechtenstein. I love Switzerland. It's just, I guess it has a perception and there's some reality to it of it being a little bit slow and expensive. I think Zug kind of got overwhelmed a little bit. I'm happy to hear alternate points of view. I think Dubai is rising. It's not there yet, but I'm telling you, it is the amount of crypto people here. It's doubling every week. So where we get that mass of humans and innovation and money and investments looking for places to go, I think that the regulatory structures are going to catch up very quickly. It's interesting. I didn't know this before I got here, but it has a federal structure that's not unlike Switzerland. You can kind of think of it as Emirates as cantons, where you have this sort of loose federal layer and a flag, but you really have these centers of innovation that are regional or sub-regional. You can even say that there's a sub-regional set of jurisdictions in the free zones. So I don't know if Dubai is front and center yet, but I think it's going to make a big move forward. And it's opened the world in ways that other jurisdictions aren't. I mean, you can just fly in here with a PCR test. You don't have to hunker down for weeks. So, and the gyms are open, which
that's the perfect advertising of the destination.
Yeah, well, rumor has it Switzerland that everything opened today, this Monday. Maybe some of you know. I have family there, but yeah, it's like when I came from Los Angeles, where I had gained 40 pounds during COVID and came here. It's like, thank you. I couldn't leave. But go ahead.
Xavier, what about your top three?
Yeah, I'm very impressed about Liechtenstein because I know the blockchain law, the container, and everything, the effort that they make for to give security in the market. No, also Switzerland and also Singapore. Singapore, I made finally a final step of regulation. And also Dubai. Dubai had made a great improvement during the last year. No? But there is not only one jurisdiction that could to be the best. No? Any jurisdiction have red flags. No? For example, how we enforce the trading activities in any jurisdiction if we cannot regulate the smart contract. No? This is a nightmare also for the clients who buy or sell tokens. No? What will be the homogenization between several jurisdictions with all the investors? No? What will be the protection of these investors in any jurisdictions? There is not any clear jurisdiction that I prefer. No, I like Liechtenstein, but it's not. Is in the European Union area, but it's not in the European Union. And we have to check everything for which purpose we decide that any jurisdiction is the best. And all the jurisdiction make the great effort to attract.
In the EFTA, right?
Is in the EU area, economic area. It's economic area, but it's not UA. Okay. This is a gray zone for example, for Spain, the investors. No? This is a tricky matter to deal with the. Like the Principality of Andorra is not on the European Union. No? It's the same approach that we have to make it. But I like it, the manner that they have approached technically the issuing of also the participants of the ecosystem. No? Very clear. No? I like it. I'm sorry. Also, Dubai make great efforts. I see the legislation, and it seems. In 1 year, have evolved all the ecosystems in Africa. He has a great potential.
Yeah.
Sorry?
You referred, when you're talking about Dubai, you refer to the security, regulating the security one which they issued. Or
yeah, because the punishment of the regulator is very big. No, they start at 300,000 from 6 million to punishment, and then you have to be careful what we issue, which jurisdiction, when we sell these crypto assets to anyone. No, For example, if we issue something in Europe and we sell to the American people from the United States, we have to be careful about if everything we have to comply before we make the publication. Okay.
Yeah, that's why it's easier for you to make a KYC.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Gordon. Christina, I'm sorry. So what about your top three?
Well, I think all of the countries that I would put in my top three has already been mentioned, but so I can say a few to keep on, on the lookout that might be the future good countries as well. I think Germany seems to be taking good strides to becoming more competitive, so to speak. And also little countries like Bermuda has been really active in that area and trying to set up regulations. And I think they recently came out with some new one that I'm not really read up on the specifics on it yet, but it seems promising. And Estonia also. So on top of the ones already mentioned, I would say that those are the countries to look out for in the medium to short term.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I mean, okay, we still have like 15 minutes. So I would like to look into more like latest developments and give you guys more opportunity to speak about something which is not so generic, but maybe closer to your heart. So, I mean, we are very lucky, for example, to have with us today Xavier, who, as he mentioned, was actually one of those people who created the new legislation for the crypto for Andorra, right? So, I mean,
yeah.
And we had a very interesting chat before this conversation with him, and I would like to give him a word to explain what was done and how complete is the new framework for Andorra and how different it is. So, Xavier, a word to you, and then I have some more questions to the others.
Okay, the Principality of Andorra, we make the law last year and we present to the Parliament on January. No? Now is currently pending to approval in June or maybe in September, October. And we have decided to make a full equip legislation by getting all the red flag, the green flags that any jurisdiction has. For example, when we get something about something from Liechtenstein, also we get something about Germany because they regulate from how to translate the traditional securities to digital securities in the new market, digital market. We have also regulated the approach before the MiCA was published, and we make the point because the resolution of the bank of the European Central Bank make us the reason of what we make to it, and also we make we regulate the central bank digital currency, and we give the government the possibility to issue the central bank digital currencies. Also, we regulate the Andorran Digital Exchange as a platform to deal with, for example, to the SIGs in Switzerland or Singapore to make the ecosystem working, and also we make all the regime for all the virtual asset services providers in a manner that comply everything with the 5th directive of anti-money laundering and also the 6th directive of anti-money laundering that is now cooking. But this is a full equip of any other jurisdiction that I think could be working at least better than the other ones because they have all the pieces together, and the only thing we need is the regulatory and the banking system adopt and contribute to make real this law as in any other jurisdictions. Okay.
Okay, we will be waiting very much for June to see if it's happening, and maybe that's the new mecca of the crypto world to set up their businesses.
We will see. Cross your finger.
Yeah, absolutely, and good luck with that. Amazing job done, honestly. Now, probably I will go with Nicolas. So regarding again the current trends, you guys working with tokenization in Liechtenstein. Your platform is developing greatly. I remember the product because you were showcasing it to me as well. With everything which is happening right now, NFTs and stuff, I know that you're stepping into that area. So can you comment anything on how is that happening in Liechtenstein? What is the latest developments? How are you approaching the new tokens, basically?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot happening, right, in the tokenization sector right now. On the one hand, a lot of the platforms are migrating also to other chains, because obviously everybody knows about the issues with Ethereum, which is also something we are currently doing. In terms of the tokens, I mean, NFTs, I think, this topic has probably been discussed a lot, but it's obviously still, a very hot topic in the sector, which has a lot of issues, and I'm sure my legal colleagues here can give a bit more insights on this, but I think when we're especially talking about intellectual property, then it's hard to just issue a token for that and say, hey, this token, represents that intellectual property without any legal compliance. And hence the token container model in Liechtenstein could be a solution for this, which we're also currently discussing with a couple of people. From a software perspective, there's basically the thing that's evolving really is that it's going into this direction of multi-asset tokenization, right? On the one hand, the low-hanging fruit, as mentioned before, is the private equity sector, because it's just much more feasible and easier to implement and also cheaper. But on the other hand, the multi-asset tokenization is really attractive, where you can kind of create an entire ecosystem. Also merging DeFi with tokenized securities is something that's interesting. For instance, our other platform, I haven't shown you this, maybe I can do it in another call, but we basically have the chance here to onboard decentralized exchanges such as Uniswap to this platform, which will then function as an OTC trading board. Basically, there's all kinds of different trends also in terms of making, for instance, private placements more efficient, going back to that topic with, let's say, for instance, encrypted websites and so on. So it's like a lot of people currently coming, also to Liechtenstein to say liquidate their crypto assets or just use it as initial capital contribution, which is possible, right? Since you can have a bankless incorporation there. So it's like, kind of the hype from the normal crypto markets is kind of, coming to this space in Liechtenstein as well. And people are getting more aware of it, especially also now with, the Swiss laws that are in place, also expanding, from Amazing Block side, our ecosystem to Switzerland and offering solutions there. Also, maybe going back to the governance topic, having on-chain governance of entities. For instance, there's a project we're also working on, having a general assembly on-chain with legal compliance. So it's a lot of different aspects, I think. But yeah, I mean, I could go more into detail, but I also want to leave the others a couple of minutes. So yeah, I mean, it's just exciting. And if anybody wants to know, feel free to reach out to me.
Right. Now, Gordon, going back to your Dubai experience, I mean, you moved there pretty recently, I know that, and you fall in love with the local ecosystem, so that which is booming right now in terms of everything, like legally, economically, the interest to crypto is just beyond the sky.
Well, I got to make one clarification. It's not necessarily that I moved here; it's just I have no plans to leave. So the lawyer in me needs to be a little bit more distinct. I'm sorry, I sort of hijacked your question. But go ahead. What was the wrap up of what you were saying?
Basically, I would like to understand, like, from your perspective, again, you said that the ecosystem of Dubai is right now developing rapidly, and the same which Xavier was also advocating for. So how do you think it's gonna get further? So when we can expect there more not strict, like more defined regulations in Dubai? Do you think that lots of people will actually move towards this jurisdiction? Because I mean, to live and work in crypto, at least to set up the companies there.
Some good questions. Dubai is sort of made to thrive during COVID, which is, they have enough mass that they can get enough people in here to do stuff. But they're not so small it's useless, and they're not so big that they can't get away with it. So there's a golden moment right now that I hope they seize. You're asking me when exactly this will all show up or happen. They should. they've been moving, but it was a little bit slow. I think they're kind of beginning to go a little bit faster. Like they're doing well compared to how they were moving before into the region. But are they moving at lightning speed? No, not yet. And they probably should. They have a window of opportunity here. Ironically, while the world is closed and they're open to just kind of go for it. I'll just point out another dynamic. I keep on saying Dubai, but I'm using that as a little bit of a shorthand for the Emirates in general. The traditional way of looking at it is that Abu Dhabi has the money because they have all the oil, and Dubai has their entrepreneurship, and the other Emirates have what they offer. But these are the two kind of poles from an economic point of view. I think for us to really push things through, you're going to need enabling legislation that's very strong in Dubai, and you're going to need Abu Dhabi, which is conservative money, to get interested in making use of that legislation. So there's almost like an inter-Emirati conversation happening. I'm new here. I'm just kind of figuring this out myself. But that seems to be part of it. What I mentioned before is something that I think holds a lot of promise, which is even if you can't get a specific emirate to move, their free zones here are like little mini cantons. They're like little miniature states in some ways. They have different legal systems than the surrounding emirate. For example, like a surrounding emirate may have Arabic law, and certain Sharia-based legal principles, but these free zones have what's the equivalent of English company law, and written in English, interpreted by courts that apply English law, and then if it ever goes beyond a certain level, they use English precedent. So I'm kind of giving you a rambling answer. The answer is I don't know when it's all going to happen. It should happen soon. There's a lot of possibility for it happening because of the free zone system, but it actually needs to happen. So we'll see. Right. I hope to be here when it happens, and I hope to help make it happen.
I mean, I think that what they're doing, actually, they're encouraging people to participate in everything they're doing right now. They put in it public and say you can contribute, you can give your opinion, and that's amazing.
Yeah, let me throw out two things. It's interesting here, and again, I'm learning my way around. To do anything substantial, you need the government to be friendly. Okay, it's not a free for all. It's not like Hong Kong where you could, or Hong Kong in good old days where you could just set up shop and do anything. You need either a local partner or a local blessing. That's usually the extended shake system. You need his royal something or other to, any one of them to kind of make a relationship with them, and that seems to open up doors. That's one thing, but that's not particularly onerous. They're available. They're interested. They want to make things happen. So there's kind of interesting conversations that happen that I wouldn't have expected to happen with a Middle Eastern monarchy. But they're very forward thinking. That's number one. Number two is you do need regulatory sign off to do things, and it's an interesting form of regulatory sign off. It's not necessarily that they say that something's okay. They say that they don't have an objection to something. You have to get a letter of no objection. So that's a little bit fuzzy, right? Because they're not legally required to issue that letter, and there's no clear standard about what would cause it to be issued or not issued. You could potentially make that a cause of complaint. You come in here, you do all this stuff, and then nothing happens. What I think it motivates though is a consultative model where you just know that you need to get them on your side. They're open to being on your side, but they need to be rationally convinced to make sense for them and the fellow Emiratis. And when you convince them and they come around and you make that investment, things happen, and they can actually happen pretty fast. So you just have to sort of mold your mind to a different kind of way of doing things. It's just an interesting place.
All right. Okay. Perfect.
We need a show on Dubai. When I learn a little bit more about what the heck I'm doing here.
Actually, we had like a little question here. Wait 1 second. Christina, sorry. Yeah, I wanted to ask you as well. I mean, in general, because again, you're working with lots of jurisdictions. So where do you feel they are most innovative, innovation, let's say, not most innovative approach, but like where does innovation go? Where are people more, from your perspective, from where you feel developing more quickly, in which areas? Because again, because you're working both with Asia and with Europe and maybe some other regulatory regimes. So where do you see most investment, let's say, of time and effort from the legislation system happening?
Oh, wow, that's a difficult question. I mean, it seems like most governments are a little bit confused still. The ones that haven't taken a really proactive approach and are at the top of the game and are crypto friendly. The rest of them have mostly taken a wait and see approach, but they're starting to catch up now. So it's really difficult to say. It's like I started this discussion off with that it's going in two directions also there. But if you're going to say something in general about that, if you look at how the blockchain and crypto communities are developing into, it's it's a lot of DAOs, the tokenization, NFTs, and all of that. And what the common thing with all of those things is that it's democratization and empowerment of people. And then you have the other one where you have private, blockchains, and which is more, central bank digital currency, or like those passports and that I mentioned. And what I think, big countries or the European Union or the US or whatever, they should think about that. You need legislation to the extent that the rules of the game and you can adjust to that, and also protect and use your KYC and AML regulation and all of that. But where I see the most need for regulation is actually on, for instance, private blockchains owned by large corporations. You don't want, when we created internet, we did it wrong in the sense that we now have global monopolies in like Google and Facebook and all of those entities. We don't want, private blockchains to have that role in the future, and especially not with central bank digital currencies. I don't think that goes totally against all this democratization and, libertarian values in the classical sense, I would say. So I think all legislators should keep that in mind and not block small entities and empower old, tired institutions to gain more power and control. But be a part of that democratization and liberation movement that really blockchain and crypto is, I would say.
That's a very, very interesting point, and actually a bit philosophical maybe, but I very much agree with Christina on that, because if we think the origins of the blockchain or the crypto anyway started like something self-regulated, right? Not that it's something should be regulated by somebody else. So that basically maybe somehow we even affect the whole idea of the blockchain, of decentralization. But still, we have to be conscious about the protection of the investors, of the customers, of the privacy of IML itself, of course.
I think it's important to be a little bit philosophical and take a global view on it when you think about these issues, and not only get focused on the little details and all of that, but raise your eyes and take a global look and see how you can help this development, because it's a good development. So it should be helped instead of stifled, I think. So that is for not only, legislators to do, but also everyone active in this area to talk about it and educate people about it, and take an active stance on that, because it's an important issues to think about and talk about. So for everyone, I would say, and for lawyers in particular, I would guess.
Thank you, Christina. We're pretty much closing now the panel, so I would like guys to take your maybe like last notes and thoughts on that, and maybe if you can share some, not exactly advice, but how do you think, where is this regulatory balance for the crypto world, for the blockchain world to be, or where should it be? Where will it go? We don't know, but where should it be in your own words? And then I will close with that. So Xavier, if you can go first.
In my opinion, the regulators has to be neutral from the point of view of the technicians. No? If not, they will stop the market. No? At the same time, they have to be careful of everything that is from the traditional system. No? Because if not, it is clear that we have to have some rules for interact each other, the ancient rules with the new ones. And also the dynamics of the ecosystems has changed many things from the point of view of the traditional system. No? And this is my suggestion from all the time to the regulators. Be neutral and permit until something is very clear and regulated. This is the reason to regulate the ecosystem. No?
The voice of the business, Nicolas.
Yeah, I mean, from my side, I would also go back to what I mentioned before. I think education is the key, that we jointly educate policymakers so they can make the right decisions that protect people and not harm innovation, right? So I think that is what I would single out as an advice. And just directly to regulators, I would say, maybe it's time to jettison, all these fragmented laws that are often, harming progress and cause a lot of friction, because now with blockchain, we have a technology that allows peer-to-peer exchange of anything basically within seconds globally. So why should we create more friction rather than just, maybe having an open stage for innovation to come and perform and then just see what happens? Because I think at the end of the day, people that are now entering this market, even though it's maybe potentially with the hypes of Doge or so, they're responsible for their own actions. So I think we shouldn't, regulate too much on that side and just, be on par with the freedom principles of blockchain and really have a universal ecosystem in the future that we can all, potentially vote on together with governance tokens, for instance, rather than just making, long-lasting processes for laws that really do not benefit many people.
Christine, want to add something more?
Well, I think I've said mostly all my views on that. I think you say it very good, Nicholas, too, that you should minimize the regulation and give to, basic protection and leave the market up to decide some and not over-regulate so that you stifle innovation completely. But also have those democracy things at the back of your head once you do.
Thank you. And Gordon, finally, the word to you.
I won't answer your question directly, but I'll tell you that my goal in life is to work myself out of a job. I want to get all these, I want to use law just long enough to protect all these startups and DAOs and blockchain creatures, just long enough to get in cryptocurrencies, just long enough to get them launched and successful and unstoppable so that they become regulated on chain and not through our traditional models. So I don't think I'll be successful anytime soon, and I think it'll be a lucrative process working myself out of a job, but that's where I want to take it. So I think that's part of democracy for all.
It is very much like being a Robin Hood a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't want to steal. I don't want to steal from the rich. I want to make new rich.
You have to steal, but you're kind of working for good in general.
Yeah. Hey, why not? Someone's got to do it. I think we all are, actually. So.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. I think we are finishing now. We ran a little bit over time just because we started a little bit late, but I hope it's not a problem to anyone. I thank you very much for joining and being a part of this experience. The video will be available within the next few days on YouTube of D4A and will be shared around in the social media. Yes, please connect to any of our speakers via the LinkedIn. They are very much approachable and always happy to help you with any issues you might have, or myself if you have any questions. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful end of the day. It was Democracy for All, D4A Pulse.